Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Aura News broadcast. It's now time for our daily English news edition, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. The discussion between the International Monetary Fund and the Albanian government has been focused on revenue, a point on which the government has had problems in the recent 2 years. Sources from the Ministry of Finance explain that a projection of the state revenue will be made based on the performance of the first months of this year. Factors that will have a negative effect on the revenue will be analyzed, including the price of oil and its effect on the VAT, mineral rent, and excise tax. According to sources, predictions are being made on the amount of revenue from excise tax, which is one of the biggest factors in the revenue shortage of 2015. The IMF mission and the Ministry of Finance are also discussing the calculation of GDP for 2015, which will be the basis for the payments to be made to Crown agents for their 2 years of service to the Albanian customs. The same sources tell us that the IMF has requested the removal of tax exemptions for several sectors, but the Ministry of Finance has not agreed to this. The ministry says that there are already exemptions in agriculture, media, newspapers, magazines, and other business types. According to the ministry, these exemptions do not affect the revenue, and they do not believe that the IMF request will be granted. They clarify that exemptions have already been made in customs, according to the EU directives. The IMF mission will be staying in Albania for 2 weeks, after which they will hold a press conference explaining their findings and recommendations for Albanian government. In a media statement today, the prosecution has announced that it is considering the possibility of replacing its leading staff at several levels of the organization. The prosecution office made the following statement. These changes are primarily dictated by the need to improve the results of penal prosecution. There will be a reformation of the general prosecution. According to the announcement, the reorganization will be made in several phases. First, there will be changes in the units in which immediate need for intervention has been noted, and this plan for reorganization comes after the annual analysis that was made at the beginning of the year, in which a number of problems were highlighted. The announcement reads, "The replacement of part of the prosecution structure is considered to be necessary. This process will be realized in the coming weeks." The plan already seems to be in motion, as yesterday the directors in Dibra, Permet, Leja, and Tropoja turned in their resignations. They claim to be resigning for personal reasons, but our sources tell us that they may actually be resigning because their departments are performing poorly, and they wish to avoid any measures that might be taken against them. The foreign ambassadors in Albania have intensified their efforts to help the majority and the opposition find consensus on the methods to be followed in implementing the justice reform. In its first meeting, the Ad hoc Commission for Justice Reform failed to adopt a methodology that the parties would follow to reflect the Venice opinion. Through a post on the social networks, the EU delegation in Tirana said that it is now up to the Albanian parliament to realize the reform. They made this statement just after the Venice Commission had adopted the draft for Albania. The Democrats feel that this supports their conviction that the process of the reform should be addressed through political dialogue. The vice chairman of the commission, Edward Halimi, who is a Democratic MP, has said that the issues addressed by the Venice Commission are political in nature and that only political dialogue can resolve them. On the other side, the majority is asking for the process to continue through the work of the Commission experts. They have proposed a 7-step method to complete the process. The former Minister of Finance gave a report today at the Inquiry Commission for the tax server. He said that there was unauthorized tampering with the tax server in 2013, just after the Socialist Party had taken over the governance. According to Mr. Cani, important data from the tax servers was manipulated and stolen. He recommended that the new Minister of Finance, Arben Ahmetaj, should investigate the incident a second time. The Democratic members asked Mr. Cani whether the audit originally conducted was legal. They claimed that people with political affiliations took part in the audit, when only the tax administration has the right to do so. This question was followed by argument between former Minister Cani and the Democratic MPs. He also commented on his removal from office, saying that the reason for his dismissal has no interest for the Albanian people. He said that the important thing is that the position is not vacant, and he thanked the Prime Minister for expressing appreciation for his work. The EU anti-corruption expert Alina Pipidi announced today that the high number of Albanians looking for asylum in the EU countries is directly related to the level of corruption in Albania. She has analyzed the problem of corruption in the Balkans and found that there is a correlation between the level of corruption in a country and the amount of people trying to leave it. This is especially true among the nation's intellectuals. PPD highlighted a report by Transparency International in which Albania is ranked at the bottom of the Western Balkan countries that are aspiring to join the EU in terms of corruption level. She commented, "One of the main reasons why people leave their countries, with the exception of civil war, is corruption. People abandon a society when it is not based on meritocracy. These people leave the country because there is no fair competition." The EU expert says that the problem in the Balkan countries is a lack of political will to change the situation. She also spoke about a second concerning correlation. The higher the index of corruption is for a certain country, the more procurements are announced by the government. She explained, "It is generally a characteristic of corrupt countries to make more public procurements. Why? Because there is a great deal of favoritism, and through public procurements, they can divert public resources to their clients and friends," she said. According to the data, she says, favoritism is a factor in 68% of the public contracts in the Balkans, a number that is much higher than the European countries. Tirana's Mayor Erion Veliaj held a meeting today with the coordinators of the administrative units 2, 3, and 4. He announced that the City Hall is working to help the needy through humanitarian associations that offer food packages. He said, "We will not leave the people with existential needs. There are associations that deliver food packages to the needy. We will reach an agreement with the supermarkets to donate the products that are close to their expiration dates." He also announced the continuation of work on several of the city's projects, making it clear that no one will be allowed to stop the good work of the City Hall. He spoke about a new initiative called Adopt a Kindergarten, in which different donors will invest to reconstruct broken down kindergartens around the city. President Nishani is currently in Azerbaijan participating in the 4th Global Presidential Forum. There he met with his Azeri counterpart to discuss the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline project. Mr. Nishani expressed his confidence that the completion of this major project will pave the way for the gasification of Albania and will further strengthen the economic relations between the two countries. The implementation of the TAP project will have a positive impact on the Western Balkan region, said Nishani. On his part, President Aliyev gave his assurance that the TAP project will be completed on time. He was very optimistic about the future of cooperation between the two countries. President Aliyev also expressed his country's interest and support in Albania's gasification. Also at the Presidential Forum, Nishani held meetings with the presidents of Georgia and Macedonia. That's the end of our edition for this evening. Thanks for watching, and please join us again at the same time tomorrow. Have a great night.